Hello, I'm Joan. I'm a Canadian family physician who also works as a restorative medical educator, facilitator, and coach. I create spaces that rehumanize the work of healthcare. I'm creating this podcast to remind myself, as well as anyone else working in a helping profession, that when you are working and caring for your human patients, you are the other human in the room. Hello there, healthcare humans. Thank you so much for coming back for another episode of The Other Human in the Room. I am super excited for this particular conversation. I was actually just very excited to meet this particular human in a cool coaching program we were both in, because I have been an admirer of Vicky for quite some time. And I think that along with some other peers, like some of what she has taught me about time and how you can think about it differently has been some of my initial inspirations and liberations to what if even in healthcare I could think about time differently. So I have such gratitude for you. So I thought, why not have you on and just chat about time? So before we get into it, I would love if you introduce yourself to everybody.
Yes, hi everybody. I'm Vicky Yaffe. I'm obviously from the UK, and I was a big believer that things took time, which led me to overworking or procrastinating, and then calling myself a recovered procrastinating hustler. And I was doing all the things, none of the things. And as a Muslim Buddha now, I was in variety hats, all sort of things. And so when I figured out that things don't take time, they see humans specifically, and underneath that, I'm sure we'll do that more into today. However, I need to spread this message rather than spread other people finding themselves into sickness. So I'm now the CEO of Time Hacker, the global scheme of coaches. We go into organizations, we work with teams, we work with individuals to optimize their time. Your time doesn't need to be managed, it needs to be optimized. And I also have a podcast called Hack Your Time, which you can check out too. So that's me.
Oh, I love it. I just wrote down recovered procrastinating hustler. That feels real. I'm gonna say the same, actually. I'm a part of the club. If we were doing an anonymous group, I would be like, hi, Vicky. And you'd be like, hi, Joan, because I'm definitely in recovery from that. That's such a good way of putting it. Yeah. So the thing I was thinking particularly, at least as a starting theme, and then just see where the conversation goes, is something that I've actually even noticed creeping back up for myself a bit more and having to notice it, which is part-time shame. Um, there's lots of things we could talk about, but that one in particular, I'm noticing that as I talk to folks, work with folks, and even as I myself create space for me in my life, create space for my humanity in my work. One of the things that almost always happens is you do have to work less. That's actually kind of the goal. So for me, I notice, oh, actually, if I honor my body's desire for pacing and rest, it means seeing less patients. I still see patients, but I've now found sort of an optimal number to see in a day, when to cut off my day. And part of that has been hiring someone else to see more of my patients, et cetera. So some of the stuff that you just said. And each time I took a step towards working less, I noticed all these guilt and shame thoughts coming up. And it's been really interesting. Even now, I know how to process them. I work through them, but I still see the messages reinforced. I actually wanted to read you this comment. I was recently on this really cool panel that have all different kinds of speakers related to healthcare for family physicians. And this is an anonymous comment. And it's not putting this person on blast per se, but it really represents actually a common thought process, I think, in definitely physicians' minds, but I actually think in many healthcare and beyond minds. So what the comment was, many of the people you have to talk about work-life balance are not actually working full-time hours or caseloads as physicians. For example, they've hired NPs or locum coverage. You are not speaking to the general family physicians. And I thought that was so interesting. I definitely had a little othering moment of oh, I guess I thought I was still practicing general family medicine, but maybe not, because I'm not doing it enough. So what comes to your mind as you hear that whole concept? Is that something that you've noticed come up, say, with clients or in your own life, where working less then brings up about a bunch of social conditioning?
Yeah, I mean, I think it doesn't for me anymore. I'm just so
That's good.
unnecessary. And I also think it's okay for people to have these different opinions. Kind of like, it's okay. But I think a lot of people, for example, when I was doing this work, I was helping people optimize their time so they could work less, earn more, live more, and that. Every single day to me, I would never get this advice from someone who wasn't a parent. Right at the time, I wasn't a parent, and now I am. And my tools haven't changed. My toolbox hasn't changed. The things that I teach haven't changed. And I just think about how often we were removing ourselves from opportunities because we did, in order to learn and gain value, we have to be in the exact same situation and lifestyle scenario as someone. So for me, when I hear that comment, I'm all like, "Bah, what a shame that this person has decided I am different and therefore has closed their brain off from the learning, from the opportunity, more than I think, like, oh, there's something wrong if you aren't operating how she's operating." How that
I love that. It's the totally flipping it of saying like, oh, that's too bad that that's sort of a limiting belief or idea that existed in her brain, right?
right.
Yeah. And that's totally it. Oh my gosh.
Right. And I think in terms of I think there's a lot of, when I say, so just so everyone knows, my good realization I touched on before is things don't take time. And that's allowed me to like liberate myself from all the conditioning around time and the 100-hour weeks that I used to learn. And the idea that there's something to be valued where I have to give it more time and give it longer time is better and working longer is better and morally in terms of the results that you produce. But part of it, unlearning that myself had to come with an understanding that not everyone was on that journey. Um, and so I still do hear things from people that's like, well, this are people listening now. I with the 16-hour week, I have other people do it too. So one of the things I don't hear is, well, it doesn't count for you because you work a 15-hour week. As though that was decided for me instead of a conscious choice I made and a massive unlearning and shedding, like emotional cleansing, that I had to persevere through and create. So I think because I went through that opportunity and very much left in hospitality, it was like, well, you're different. You don't have any problems now because you work a 15-hour week. And I'm like, you spend to peak time and time or shit chicken and time also doesn't shit your humanity and your
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah. Right. And it is, it just feels it's a flawed argument. And it's not to critique the argument, but just to see the hole in it of like, because you've put in the work and the process and the transformation to get to a spot where you can feel better, that means that like you used to operate under the conditions that those that would critique or say you're like, I was you before actually.
Yes, and I wonder if there's also people who did the opposite, who used, I'm sure there are, who worked less and value working less and decided they want to work more. I think the whole point is everyone listening, like you get to be the decider, you get to be the chooser, and when you feel in control and powerful in your choice, then you are much more friendly to other people in a box and further the lid because they made different choices. When you feel I cannot make these choices, I cannot make these decisions, we differentiate ourselves and to what benefit?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so true. I would love to hear any amount that you're interested in sharing of like going from 100 hours to 15 hours. Obviously that must have been like a long time. But like what would you say were some of the biggest shifts you had to make in terms of how you viewed yourself, how you viewed time? I would love to hear some of that if you're willing to share.
And so when it just I was like, I was so interested in the brains that must have been a long time. Right.
That's true. It could have been a week. Who knows?
All going to be around time
Oh my gosh.
everywhere.
Everywhere.
But so I had my third burnout when I was looking and because I will meet to know what his prize is his name. And I got to the point where I had a breakdown. My partner, who's also my business partner, said, I'm leaving the business. My business is not happening. He got not supported by not closing this. Then I can see what's happening. And so we closed the business I love in 2019. I moved back to New Manhattan, just like in the US. It was not where I thought I would be in life, and it felt like a massive fail, and it felt public because of the community around our business at the time. I mean, we moved from Austin, Texas back to Manchester, England. It was just like, what is happening in my life? So many changes. I remember how I ever thought, okay, I would be successful, but I will take care of my house. And which is such a con.
Yes.
We did either or.
Yes.
And so that's what I did. I set about doing that. And at the same time, I decided to help people. I used to have all sorts of music probably being anxiety attacks. I wake up in the morning and then use tools to support myself through it and eliminating them completely, which is well. So that's what I help people with. Anxiety and procrastination, those are the two things that I really overcome. And so I did that, and then my cooking business, I think, as you know, it grew a lot faster than anticipated. We were taking care of yourself was the way our success. Okay, interesting idea. And then it was a year later, so I already, maxed out my Amazon capacity, built a community around teachings, creative videos, all of that. And I was still working, like I changed, I'd gone from working with 26 one-on-one clients to like having a community and no one-on-one clients at that time. And I hadn't changed. I hadn't thought question and how I was working and the hours I was working. But my background is economics. I'm an economist. I love it. To work through a lot of my tools and works, the things I studied in economics. And key is predicting that we all have the 15-hour work week back for 2030. And this said it suddenly, it toyed with me a little bit. I thought, let's see, we can do this, go on and try. So instead of thinking, oh, good affording would be whatever it was, I was like, I want to see key and when Vicky's right, because the truth is technology is allowed us to allow us to go, start the same output with less hours. So what is the problem? What is the issue? And I just really did an experiment with me as a subject. And I tested, how I thought I would do it and what I wanted it to look like. And I will tell you at first, for example, so this was probably in 2021, where I really, I still wanted to have to still my client. I couldn't just have the space and not know what was happening, which is how I operate now. So I still have to do my time, and that meant, I would go out for 2-3 hour hike or whatever it was. I still needed to do something. That was part of my process. But with it, I call it my purge. I had to purge all of my toxic productivity norms, ideals, and my views of myself. And I had to unravel away like, I'm a waste of time, I'm a waste of space, and I'm not potent, and I'm all of these things, and really take care of myself through it. But really it happened quite fast once I made the decision. It was just that it wasn't that pleasant at first.
Yeah, it is like literally a detox. Like there's a reason we were doing it the other way before, and it's not just because we're not wanting to have a good time. Like there's a kind of social reward and emotional reward that we've been conditioned to try and seek. It just really doesn't pay wonderful dividends. Speaking of burnout, etc. Right? Wow. I'm curious, especially the notion of working through waste, being a waste, and also wasting your skills, wasting your degree, wasting your talents, because I think a lot of folks in healthcare, they see the need, and the need is large. In my opinion, in terms of economics, demand outweighs supply currently, which is not an individual problem, but we make an individual problem. And so then if you pare back, then it feels like you're wasting your skills. And that's actually something I can recall an op-ed where someone had the opinions if you don't work full time, or it was an older male physician who's like, these young females, they have babies and then they can only work part-time and it's a waste of medical tuition. Anyway, they had their opinion, obviously. And so I would love to hear ways that you have worked through that sort of wasting yourself, wasting your time concept. Like, what's a different way people could be thinking about that?
Yes. I also want to offer that nobody says this about women that can't go back to the workforce because of childcare costs, because the only option is to work 40+ hours a week, and how it wastes all of that time and we see all of that resource. And I promise you, if you added all of the wasted resources that are used because workplaces and work norms aren't inclusive to women, to parents, to neurodiversity, to chronic illness, like if you added that, I promise the waste in creativity is much bigger. So I think yeah, just in one second on that, because exactly as you said, we take it on like I'm wasting my time, my resources, and my resources, and I said was a resource, instead of taking that world view picture of like, if this is my view, right? If we shake this up, okay, if we make work accessible, and you know, not just certain types of jobs, but really all of them accessible in a more time flexible, non-long hour way, what are we creating more capacity for? What are we creating more resource for? Like, actually, the world has some serious problems, and we have some brilliant brains that they push to ours because they cannot commit the 40+ hours a week.
Yes. Oh my God, I have chills. That's like, I think about that. I've had conversations and work with some clinicians and physicians who live with like disabilities or chronic illness, and they have the sort of what a waste and taking on that shame thought. And just I love even framing the whole concept that way of like, so if we make the entry point accessible to everyone, that actually means then there's more people who can go through the door, and we need more people.
Yeah, not just because people equal hours, but because, different people and different experience. And if we're going to say, diversity, but like just do it, then let's facilitate diversity instead of saying diversity is good as long as everyone in the diverse box can also perform the way that you decided you have to perform before we were considered diversity. It's not real diversity then.
Oh my gosh. Preach. That's so true. And because that, yeah, like it is one of the issues that I'm like in the process of continuing to work through is like having inherited a mindset of like how patient care is delivered and how
Yeah.
it's sort of it is one to one, and it's in many cases actually like you must see in a certain way in order to receive a fee. And I see that system and that payment model then reinforces this mindset of then you have to see all the people in order to make all the money. And so it would be cool if the system diversified that for us, but often we end up having to get creative and diversify for ourselves. Hey,
Yes, I mean, I speak it all as well, with all service and financial houses, and I think medicine as well. It's just like old institutions, old ways of doing things, old norms, terrified of change. But we're starting to see it even here in the UK. But there's a few people that are willing to test a different way and willing to play with, with different ways are more genuinely inclusive and more effective. And you're going to see that the way that you've done things always is not the way that we're going to be doing things in the future. And everyone that's scared of AI and everyone that's scared of like all of these things, like if you are going to dig your heel into the spot as the world spins around you, you are going to miss the ride. Like you're going to be sit there and your heel dug in as it spins around you. And as people like sorry, but there has to be balance. And I don't mean this every person has to change everything. I just said, what? I'm just encouraged for thinking, like, what is one small thing that I would like to change that maybe isn't terrifying and shock to my system, like creating a 15-hour work week for a 100-hour one tomorrow? And what would that look like for me? What am I doing because it's always been done that way? Because I've always seen it done that way. What would I like to experiment with? But that's the key question. If I would have said to myself, I have to work a 15-hour week if I want to be successful in the future, that wouldn't have been a successful experiment. But that question of what do I want to experiment with, I really encourage everyone listening to just sit at that question. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to change your name. But I'd love to hear what you think.
yeah, I love the language of experiment. I use it often as well in my like coaching and stuff, and also with patients. That it's interesting language to use with patients too, of like, instead of it having to it forecast knowledge that nobody actually has, but being like, okay, so be your own scientist, notice what's coming up for you, let's try this and see. I think sometimes we think that both for ourselves and for patients or wherever, that we have to provide like certainty, when that's like not the gig of the human experience. So I
Yeah.
love experimentation.
Yeah, I always think about that. It's like when people say that we want certainty, that's never been the deal of life. We don't get certainty. So what you have is false certainty. And that false certainty we over-attach to, and because it's false, we dig our heels in to try and prove it more and more instead of being learners. I was listening to my team the other day, we were doing that, and well, doing this event, and instead, what do we want to do? And what do we want to learn? Like, we're so attached, so we're taught to religiously so attached to the right now and what we're currently in and knowing the answer for today. But for what reason?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love, yeah. What do you want to learn? What a fabulous question for just like a life philosophy, And what a cool question to drive a team. So it's like, right, what are we going to be curious about here?
Yes, yeah. And then about like medical innovation. Medical innovation is so huge, so necessary, so required, but it requires uncertainty. It requires us to say, what do we want to learn? What do we want to test? What do we want to experiment with? And somehow I'm seeing so many amazing like advances that have helped so many people. So if we're always looking at certainty, we're always going to be looking backwards. Always.
Mm, I love that. I'm curious, when you've been working with folks in different industries that have the sort of fee for service type mentality. So it's like, but I get more fees if I do more service. So if I just keep doing more service and I get more fees. I would love to know what experiments you've seen get run in these different settings, healthcare or otherwise, because blowing up that mindset, I think will serve everyone so well. And I'd love to know like how that's played out when you've worked with different people.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you're speaking about is not even fees for service, it's fees for time. Is that right?
Well, that's it, totally. But it's often like, I guess, billable hours or, whatever.
Yeah.
But it is, you're right. It's for even just like fee for service means I have to see 3 patients every 5 minutes. Like there's something interesting about that notion that there's already assumptions in there. Like, well, could some of these services be delegated? Could some pieces of the service be delegated, etc.? Like, yeah. So I love that you just named that. That's so good.
Yeah, because I think that's it from feedback. It was saying fee for service. But I mean, without obviously, I mean, I'm thinking about law firms, the word where there is typically fees for hours. And what you'll find so often is that kind of structure actually sets you up with the different reward system, and opposite reward system to the client's reward system and the client's goals. And so this is why I think we're seeing such an opportunity here to revolutionize and experiment it, because if your goals are actually aligned with the clients, so that you're actually paid not based off of the time or what's all the honey boxes you ticked in that time, but on the result of the boxes that you ticked in that time, then you can actually achieve more faster, right? So instead of kind of being like 3 months on, it could be 3 weeks on. If all of your clients that were 3 months and now 3 weeks, then you get to see like I don't think that's probably like 4 times as many clients. And see it's actually more positive as well.
So it's like, yeah, even so, like what I hear is, well, questioning the underlying assumptions of what we even mean by it. Yeah. And look at what your current system is actually rewarding. And if
Yeah.
that's what you want it to be rewarding.
What is your current system rewarding, and what is it that people that you are serving are wanting, or where the mismatch is? And then there will be some matches too. It's something you'll everything's ruined, but like where are the mismatches and which ones do you want to play with?
Mm-hmm. And when you have clients who say are operating within that system and they are not in a current position to like change the overall model, And so they're like, well, but this is the model I'm in. And so I'm doomed. Or like, what's the kind of advice or coaching you give to people where they're a part of a system that's operating on like in an older mindset, and what they can accomplish for themselves within that?
Yes, and I also think it's really important that not everybody wants to change the system. Not everybody feels cool. Not everybody has to do all the things. So again, a lot of great thing on this is that some people like eating a system, and some people like shaking the system. You want all of those humans in the world. So I definitely don't want anyone listening to be like, like I don't want to drive change and where I'm working well thing. That's great. And so again, it's like, but again, if also it is, then there's a step and then there's a narrative that you ties around system. For example, a big thing that womanizational people come to us with, I'm not sure individuals is, I've got too much to do and not enough time. I've got too much to do and not enough time. It's almost every single person listening, you do know 100 people that you should recommend my podcast to because everyone is operating from that base. Whereas the truth matter gate, so there's someone else today playing, the team I might had 112 things to do, and then time realistically not get 7 things done today. Right? That's what that I'm was doing. Right? So instead of thinking like, oh, I need to like rush or change or work longer today or hire more people or whatever it might be, we need to get comfortable in our modern day world having things to do and not having them completed. Like I had this training I did called To Do With Zero. That she's released her out a few years ago. Maybe I'll release it someday, but I'm sure it would be different because then it really was about she needs to do the zero. And now I've realized is the biggest thing that we need to get good at is having things to do and not doing them. And when we tell ourselves, I'll feel better when everything's complete, I'll feel better when everything's clean, I'll feel better when I tick all the boxes, I'll feel better when what we're saying is I cannot feel good now.
Yeah.
I would say so as being with the system that's saying there might be small things that you want to change, but if you are not in any position to change them, then what is the value of complaining about
Mm. Oh, do you want to take that off your to-do list?
them?
If you will. It's like if you accept the constraints, I mean, actually it's important to always accept some constraints because sometimes if you're like, like just do whatever, like that's very, first of all, destabilizing. Usually nervous system will shut you down at some point, often, unless you're like really going for it. But like accepting a certain constraint today and being like, yeah, I am not choosing to change the system, and that is valid and that makes a good sense. And so within that constraint, what are the things, well, tell me if this is kind of how you, but like what the value am I offering today? How can I value what I offered today and see it and be like, look, these are the people I helped. These are the things I accomplished.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a bunch more that could have been happening theoretically, but like, here's what I did.
Yes. I'll give you an example. There's a lot of doctors bringing into the community. There's about the clients. And I remember our coaches one loves who was writing on the chart. So I've seen the seconds. I'm the same, but when we don't write all the details of the chart or everything about it, so I'm finding myself doing that later in the evening. I started spending time with my peers, or time about things into whatever it is. And we really got to the point of like, people reading the charts, like the value to them is not always also not having more information. Like we need to be willing to say, okay, I value my work and I value my time with my kids. Because I'm a high performer, which doctors are, and an overachiever, which doctors are, and needs to get A plus plus, and telling myself I need to get A plus plus in every single facet of my work and everything that I do. And I'm thinking about my performance, not what the other person receives. And actually what the other person might prefer to receive is 3 sentences. So if you're willing to do something that doesn't show your story knowledge and doesn't show all the information, doesn't have all the words that they don't understand daily, and just think what's the most important thing you have to do, and then to write that down in 60 seconds and then set a timer, and then to write down in 60 seconds what I've heard that I want them to know. Knowing that the first 10 to 50 hand I do it, it's not probably as good as it's going to be the times afterwards, right? Like you have to be willing this is what I mean by experiment. Experiment sounds so nice. Like experiment, like experiment means fucking up. Experiment means doing potentially something, you know, I must say, while I was reluctant, I feel like they're so afraid of it, but potentially doing something wrong with it, deciding what is the return of that? Is the return on that getting to spend every evening with your child? Is the return on that with clients, getting to actually understand what they're reading and getting the most important information? And what is the return on that? You have to. If you are not willing to swallow some discomfort, you're not willing to swallow the mistake, and you're not willing to swallow, you know, that part of the experience, you don't get the upside. You don't get it. Nobody gets through it. Like all clean and easy, and it was so romantic and amazing the whole time. That you have to be willing to do something badly in order to do something greatly.
Oh, preaching to the choir. And this, yes. So there's fear of mistakes, and then there's genuinely trying to minimize errors that impact patient outcome.
Right.
And that, first of all, that those are two different things. And often what I find is folks have this thing of like, I can't make a mistake. I can't make a mistake, which like, well, that's already not a fact. So it's hard to try and live that way because like humans make mistakes. And in pursuit of trying to not make a mistake, it's like trying to overdo things that you at least have some tangible control over. So overcharting for sure, double checking things, double checking on patients. Like sometimes I call it babysitter medicine, where they're like checking in on the patient a lot. And none of these are inherently evil or bad, but when it's really causing distress is where it's like worth taking a peek at. And especially ironically, so if we're super focused on not making typo errors or making sure that we'll never be sued because of the notes that we're writing, that takes up bandwidth in the brain. And certainly errors still occur. Like we're distracted with that. And another error or mistake is sometimes actually more likely to happen because we're so hyper focused on only certain parts of the conversation.
Right. That's the message. That's the sentence that goes like being hyper focused, triple checking, being slow. One of these things do not mitigate the risk and might actually increase it. And that's very important for everyone to hear because we've been told and trained that the opposite is true. So of course we think that it's irresponsible or reckless to not triple check, to not re-review, to not babysit the patient, what you were saying there. And you feel when you're doing something wrong, we feel shame. We feel like we're letting someone down. When the truth is, the more we focus on problems, the more likely we direct our brain towards them.
Yes. Ugh.
I play tennis. I always remember my dad saying to me when I was younger, and I use it in the rock coaching stuff. He's like, stop looking at the net. If you look at the net, you are going to hit it. And it's literally true. If I look at the net, as I'm moving my body, I'm moving my body the same. I know the moves. I know what to do. When I look at the net, I hit the net. When I look on the other side, when where I look is where I hit. And so I just think it's really important for people to hear that it doesn't make you bad or careless or reckless or anything. It actually is sensible to, in understanding your brain, to say, I am going to stop making my brain focus on this thing that I don't want to happen, and then making decisions that I have to do so much work with so much. Give so much time, so much resource to therefore check these out and happen is that I'm not going to focus on what's happening from. I'm going to focus on what I want to happen. And then to look at where I want to hit the ball intentionally, where I want it to land, and going to make decisions over and over from that base.
Yeah. Oh, I love, so it's like what is the intention? Yeah. Where do I want to hit the ball? I love that. That's such because it's like another phrase that I love is like what you pay attention to grows. And so it's sort of similar. So it's like where we're paying attention, then that increases the likelihood of that outcome. And then it saves all the bandwidth of all the other stuff we could be paying attention to. Hey. I think, okay, this is going to be one of my last questions, I think, just speaking of time. What are some of your biggest pet peeves around time management stuff that you're like, when someone's like, this is the solution to manage your time? What are your pet peeves?
I just want to emphasize this, but like, if you are listening and anything works for you, and then keep doing it.
Fits. Yeah.
That's, and also always doing one area, man, always for another. Like, whatever works, keep it working, don't do a day, having a but that also is the crux of my biggest problem is the way we've been taught about time, the time management industry, and there's an industry, it's a hundreds of $1 billion industry that we've faced it. The whole issue is that the mass marketization of it and the idea that a tool or a way of being or a time that you wake up or, the 25-minute song about it, whatever it is, this is the way you should operate all the time in order to optimize the performance. It doesn't hold for any nuance of our humanity, speaking this process about each human, it doesn't hold for any nuance on ourselves, of our evolution, of our shifting roles, responsibilities, of our shifting hormones and health, like literally nothing. So my biggest pet peeve is when people say to me, like, I'll be successful when I follow my plan, or they spend all of one day rewriting the to-do list, losing everything, or like downloading a new productivity app, or looking online. Someone literally said this to me the other day, that you spoke, and then they said, so I was about to order another planner. Now the options I've only got 11 in the house somewhere that I'm not used. And I was like, yes. Then you have these sold solutions to the wrong problem. We do not have a time problem. Time is the resource. I love time so much because we have time. It's a resource we have. I have 24 hours. You have 24 hours. Now, some of the hours might be allocated differently. We might have different, I don't know what to say, it's all equal, but what is equal is the number of hours that we have. It is a resource that we'll have, and the best time management doesn't create 25 hours in a day. So when we are giving hours to managing time, this fixed known resource, we are losing the fact that we are unknown, we are unfixed, we are unlimited. And what we do is we minimize ourselves down to away from our own brilliance into actually with the follow on and it's set amazing. I'm like, what makes you think that it's party sex and amazing? Or either that would be the best thing to do. It's still a small setter. Today you were 7 days and when you made those decisions, like I would not let 19-year-old Vicky tell me you don't commit dating anymore or something. But she's the number one going charge. And my dating life, I thought herself is the least smart version of ourselves. As your current self with present self is so smart and so intelligent. And if we were taught instead to optimize ourselves and to know ourselves and to listen to ourselves instead of obsess over time, because I think you've been speak about this as well. The time industry is like the diet industry. Like,
yes.
It thrives off the fact that nothing really works.
No.
That's what it thrives off. It's so much stuff off the fact that we're start with the 5 a.m. but you do that for a few minutes and then why does it happen? You're not waking up at 5 a.m. and then you've been told if you don't do it always, it's not worth it ever, and you're never going to do it again, but you're ashamed yourself for the fact that you're not doing it. And then you're going to tell yourself, okay, I can't do the 5 a.m. club, but what I can do is I can time block every 15 minutes of my day, and you're going to do that for a while. Then I still remember that it's what's the thing about. We have these unsustainable tools that we are told are the answer to optimizing our lives that takes us away from living our lives. So that's probably the main thing I'm talking about today.
I feel like I've had goosebumps so many times in this conversation. I had them again. It's so true. And I relate to the number of varying productivity or to-do apps that I have purchased or subscribed to or whatever. That is real. I also like even what you said, like when it's working for you, then it's working for you. And so seeing these things as is this a tool that works for now? Just when you have a kid, you need you don't need, but maybe it's helpful to have the baby carrier that works really well for one stage, but then the baby grows, has different needs. And so just the notion of it never being this rigid, all-encompassing solution. And especially nothing is wrong with you if the tool doesn't work for you. It's just the wrong tool. Because the shame you can feel whenever I've tried the Pomodoro method, that's that timer thingy, it's not my jam. And if it works, that's so cool. That's the one you is it 25 minutes on and 5 minutes off or something?
Yeah, so how I think again, it's like yeah, you can rest, but just for 5 minutes or only one for 5 times that mark. Of course it doesn't work for people. Do you know, and you have got like 2 hours and then I'm like completely burnt out. I'm like, yeah, we never run a relay race and be like, how many hours is only 5 minutes? You got 2 hours and 5 minutes. And they're right here. I'm like, it's not.
The ratio is sus for sure. And I just think that's so useful to know. Like and it still doesn't mean it was like, I wasted my time. Like that was still useful for me to know. It was still an experiment. And then I learned that that was not going to be helpful for me. And so your whole approach, I really resonate with because it's the idea of like that nothing has to be wasted. Because you can always look back and be like, oh, I definitely learned what happens when I try all of these ways. And now I'm curious if there's something else out there.
Yeah, so maybe like the part that would work for me in terms of like folding laundry and being like, it's sort of like now scroll for 5 minutes. Like maybe that helped for me to realize that it could work in different ways. And I do think I came for it a little bit. And then, you know, you really just get to decide and evolve, and it would be very springy for what worked for you last year, what worked for you this year. So really, I want to just give everyone permission to release any guilt or shame or custom comparison that you have to a version of yourself where something worked, it doesn't work anymore.
That's okay. That makes sense, actually.
Yeah, that's how it works.
That is how it works. Nothing's gone wrong, as we here said. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom. And I love just listening to you. So I feel so lucky that I got to listen to you directly and then share this conversation with other folks that listen to me. So I usually end by asking, so sort of picturing the people who listen to my podcast. The vast majority work in healthcare, though some don't, and that's fun. And I think a centering question is, they're feeling like they can't feel human in their work. I think that's the people that stay is like, yeah, something's not quite right. The way that our mindset's set up, or like our social culture set up, the system set up, the default means I'm not feeling so human. And I would say time is, and the notions around time and the expectations people have of what they're meant to do with their days is a huge part of that. And so what would you want to say to them? Encouraging words, advice, what would you want to say to folks listening who are in that kind of spot?
Yes. So I just want to normalize it as not just people in healthcare that feel that way, because I think you always get like, well, it's different for me because I work in this field, but it's different for you. This thing, so I just want to normalize that for a minute. And the second thing I will say, and I'm going to share that my personal experience here, is when I had my baby, I was out of the house for a few months, and then going back to work and this whole don't know about having it, all of these things, and I put a lot of pressure on myself because I'm still human. Hi, I still get to be human.
Yes.
Do martial arts. And I remember getting to this fork in the road of a decision that I was making. And I decided, and I couldn't decide cleanly for myself at that point. There was so many influences and so many expectations and so many norms and so many rules. And so instead of making a decision for myself, I asked myself, what's the example that I want to be for the next generation? And that allowed me to make such a clear, simple, powerful, obvious decision where I might feel some discomfort today. I would rather I feel the discomfort today and start forging that change than let the be myself to do something, because that's what I've seen happen before. So for everyone who's a human in healthcare, which by the way, I always say our humanity is my favorite thing about us. Right? So it's not okay to be human, but it's like you literally want to be around humans. You don't want to live with robots. This is why we're all screwed with AI. If that choice is there and you want it, these days you can literally just live with technology and just get by. But you want to do it, and the humans and other humans want to do with you. I can't remember where I was going now. Let's start about AI. It's winking at me.
Oh, you have a little friend in the corner. Well, you were just talking about how, yeah, you were talking about humans in healthcare and how it feels not okay to feel human. Yeah. But that's literally what we want from each other and for ourselves, right?
Yeah, that's really the difference. Like people always speak about AI and being afraid of it. And I'm like, our humanity is a thing. Alice, kids, back to my famous thing about hers. It might mean we're messy, it might mean we're unpredictable, it might mean we're emotional, it might mean we take too long on something, or we need someone sleeping on something, or we wouldn't be able to do something perfect every single time. But it also means we can connect with someone else. It also means we can really listen with someone else. It also means we have access to creative thought from experience and expression. Like, it needs so many usable things. And I just really encourage you to think about, like, why do your patients, why do your colleagues, why do your peers want you to be human and not?
That's so good. That's the, if you ask yourself that question, it makes it clearer what to prioritize in your day, even speaking kind of practically, right? Where it's like, well, what is going to help support me to feel human and to lead with my humanity? And then, some stuff that you're feeling like you really have to do could be done by a robot. Like, let's look one up. I've talked before, I use an AI scribe. So I'm like getting into the AI game. So I don't have to type my own notes anymore. A robot types them for me, and it really works for me. It does not work for everyone for sure, but like I'm loving really thinking what can be done by others and what doesn't even have to be done by another human. I just think that's a very fun question.
Like, I think all the things we need to do with so we can how much humanity is burden center.
Yeah, because oh man, we need it in these times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Remind people, you said it up top, but where, if people want to follow you or learn more from you, where can they go?
So I actually have a stop wasting time guide. That would be a really good place to start at timehackers.funny/diet. I have a podcast called Hack Your Time, or I'm on LinkedIn, Vikki Yaffe, and Instagram at Vikki Yaffe too.
Perfect. I will put the links in the show notes so people can find all of those things.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right. And for everyone listening, may you ask yourself, what do you want to learn this week? Yes, what is unique about your humanity that you could allow to shine a little brighter this week? And we'll talk to you next week. I would love to take this work deeper with you. Visit joanchanmd.com today and discover my growing menu of options for restorative medical education to suit your learning needs. I offer one-on-one coaching, customized workshops, and self-study courses that allow you to connect not only with my work on a deeper level, but also with other healthcare humans just like you. So if you want to start humanizing your work in healthcare to a deeper level and do it in community with others, please visit joanchanmd.com and find those options and what fits you and your life today.